from a high level, it's the insights you can gain across the organization. You start to talk about, especially in this space, global organizations, 5, 10, 50,000 employees.
Yeah.
And, to be able to aggregate that data in a meaningful way becomes next to impossible unless you have something like this, some sort of a tool as that interface.
Growing a business requires a holistic approach that extends beyond sales and marketing. This approach needs alignment among people, processes, and technologies. So if you're a business owner, operations, or finance leader looking to learn growth strategies from your peers and competitors, you're tuned into the right podcast. Welcome to the WBS Podcast, where scalable growth using business systems is our #1 priority. Now, here is your host, Sam Gupta.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's show. And if you're joining for the first time, this is part of our industry series, for which we meet every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern. We review one vendor or the solution. For today, we have a new category we are starting. And Dave, I know that you have missed some of them, and Shrestha, you are joining for the first time. So we have done a lot of WMS, TMS this year. Now, this is the new category that we have not reviewed so far. And this is the HCM category. And today we have SAP SuccessFactors. And I don't know if you have reviewed any other HCM categories so far or not, but we are going to have a number of them in a sequence after this. So we are going to have a lot of fun discussing that. Before we do that, we are going to start with everybody's intros. I'm going to start with my quick intro. Sam Gupta, principal at Elevate IQ. Elevate IQ is the independent ERP and digital transformation consulting firm. On that note, Dave, can I ask you to introduce yourself next?
Sure. Thanks, Sam. Hey, everybody. My name is Dave Chrysler, and I own an operations consulting business working with leaders in manufacturing, helping them through change management and systemization of their businesses, and excited to be here with you both today.
Amazing. Thank you so much for being here, Dave. And Shrestha, joining for the first time. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi everybody. I am Shrestha Das, and I'm part of the Elevate IQ marketing team here. And I'm super excited to be part of this panel today and learn more about SuccessFactors.
Okay, amazing. Thank you so much for being here, Shrestha. So guys, I'm going to start with the quick briefing as we do, but if you're in the audience, if you want to mention your location where you are joining from, we would love to hear that. And if you guys have any sort of questions or comments, please keep them coming. Typically, we like to cover them during the show. If we miss out on your comments, then our panelists will make sure that you receive your answers. On that note, Dave, Shrestha, I'll start with the quick briefing on SAP SuccessFactors. So before, let's review the category, HCM category. And sometimes, there is a lot of confusion in the market when they look at HCM, ERP. HCM people keep saying, hey, it's all ERP. ERP people keep saying, you know what? You can keep your HR processes, payroll processes inside ERP. Why does ERP not have those processes? Okay. So we are going to review all of those factors. In fact, if you look at the SAP's journey as well, overall, how they got this product, obviously this is an acquired product. It was not created by SAP. So initially, when SAP used to approach ERP in their mind, what they used to do is, especially when you talk about the ECC world, they were keeping the HR payroll processes as part of just module of an ERP. A lot of ERP systems had approached. They were never good at HR payroll, and that's why they figured, you know what, HR is probably meant to be separate in the best of breed manner, and that's how HCM category was kind of born. If you look at the traditional players in the HCM category, and Dave, I don't know, which one you have utilized. I'm pretty sure you have probably utilized slightly smaller ones in the companies that you have worked with. Most likely they must be payroll solutions. I don't know whether you use ADP.
Yep. Yeah, nothing this complex. So, but it'll be interesting to see, some. I'm sure there's some comparisons or things to pull from for sure.
Yeah. So overall, I guess the HCM category was created in the SaaS world. There were some players in the on-prem world as well, but for the most part, if you look at the pure play HCM category, I think it's more prevalent in the cloud world. Workday is probably the flag bearer in general because they are the market leader in the HCM category. But before Workday was there, I think Oracle HCM used to be the flag bearer. Just because of their PeopleSoft solution, but even the PeopleSoft solution, they had a lot more HCM presence, but it was also an ERP primarily targeted for service-centric companies, right? So it was not necessarily just the HCM category, it was slightly more, but then Workday created the whole HCM category. SuccessFactors was another SaaS vendor or the cloud offering that was really hot that SAP ended up acquiring. That's how they got SuccessFactors. So now all of the HR processes, HCM processes related to HR function are kept inside SAP SuccessFactors, inside your S4 HANA portfolio. So some people get confused when they look at, okay, what is the difference between S4 HANA versus SAP SuccessFactors? So SAP SuccessFactors is actually part of S4 HANA core, meaning this is going to serve as more of the HCM best of breed solution. It's not different, even though it has a different branding, just because it's supposed to be a standalone best of breed solution, but it is sold as part of SAP S4 HANA core, and whatever processes were hosted inside ECC, now they need to be migrated inside your SuccessFactors, so it's going to be slightly different architecture. So going back to the category definition and different variables that generally drive the whole HCM movement, I guess, right? So number one variable that you need to look at is going to be the data confidentiality. Okay, and the number two is going to be compliance, and there are more. We'll be covering those, but let's talk about these ones in detail. So number one, data confidentiality. When you look at the HCM data, it's slightly different. Dave, I'm pretty sure you don't want any of us to know your salary and the money that you are making, right? That is something nobody likes. People don't want to reveal that. So there are different confidentiality issues. For the most part, if you keep this in ERP has very different security workflow, the kind of data sets that you can enable in that. And if you started enabling more of the individual centric security workflows, ERP systems are not necessarily designed for those. So the data is going to be very different. The kind of data HR has, it's not going to be just the financial and operational. When I say financial and operational, I'm still looking at HR lenses, because in the HR world as well, you are going to have HR financial, HR operational data, but then you also have some more workflows that has nothing to do with operations or finance. For example, let's say if you look at recruiting, learning, you look at benefits management. Benefits management may have a little bit of overlap with the finance and operations, but for the most part, recruiting, it really does not have any overlap with finance and operations. It's very, very, very separate function. It can be compared with some of the comparable functions, such as your sourcing or maybe vendor and customer interactions. But in those interactions, you are going to have some finance and operations overlap. But for the most part, when you look at recruiting, that is probably going to be comparable to your sourcing in the procurement world.
Sam, what about something like I-9 requirements? Is that something that you could handle? Is this a solution that would handle that integrated, or is that still something that would exist outside of this? Do you know?
So in this also, you are going to require a lot of add-ons. So HCM is a category, the way your CRM is a category. HCM is going to be a category. So some HCM systems might be able to handle, for the most part, when you look at any of the HCM systems, they are designed to handle most of the HR HCM processes, whether you are going to have enterprise grade or it is going to be just the beginning. Most of the companies, when they start, they are probably going to start with some sort of small payroll software. They might have just employee management module or something like that, very small, something like Bamboo HR. But when you grow into complexity, when you are going to have sales compensation, benefits, organizational issues, that's when HR gets thicker and they need much deeper capabilities overall. So, Dave, to answer your question, I guess for the most part, I guess if you look at the enterprise grade systems, for example, your SAP SuccessFactors, they are probably going to have the majority of those capabilities, and they are going to claim that you probably don't require another system. But with that as well, you might require a lot of add-ons, and one of which is your payroll. Even though these guys are going to claim that, what, I can support 50 countries, but with that also, they are going to say, hey, you know what? Payroll is better kept probably inside your ADP or something like that.
It's an interesting, it's interesting. I totally get where you're coming from, and I'll just leave it at that. It's interesting to see how they're able to do stuff like that, right? And then really provide the value. And I think, from a high level, it's the insights you can gain across the organization. You start to talk about, especially in this space, global organizations, 5, 10, 50,000 employees. Yeah. And, to be able to aggregate that data in a meaningful way becomes next to impossible unless you have something like this, some sort of a tool, as that interface layer.
Exactly. Great points. So going back to the two aspects or two variables that I was trying to mention. So number one is going to be your data confidentiality. Number two is going to be compliance. Okay, and I'll be touching on compliance as well. Compliance gets very, very, very thick and deep from the HR perspective. So data confidentiality, I already mentioned the kind of issues that you are going to have. The security workflows are going to be very different. The kind of permissioning that you require in that, it's very, very, very different. You are going to have scenarios such as your employee self-service. It goes through very different process. For the most part, you don't want to expose your ERP to your employees in general. Unless those employees work in finance or operations. Otherwise, it exposes unnecessary holes, I guess. You don't want to have too much security open from the ERP perspective. So that's where your HCM app could be very handy. Some ERP may have, let's say, T&E process. They expose that just to submit their expenses, etc. That's an okay process. That's not a problem at all. But for the most part, HCM is probably a better candidate just because you are going to have a lot more devices in general with the interactions when you are dealing with people. Now, coming back to number two. So number two is compliance, okay? And HR compliance is very, very, very different from your financial compliance or operational compliance, for which ERPs are really known for. When you look at the HR compliance, you are looking at, number one, you need to look at federal compliance. And when we look at federal compliance, let's say if you are present in 200 countries, then you are looking at federal compliance of those, 200 countries. And labor laws, they are extremely notorious, and they are changing on a daily basis. Okay, nobody likes to be in HR because of those laws, because they are really difficult. Okay, so number one, at the federal level, you are going to have a lot of different laws, but then you also have the state and county. And typically, most ERP systems, they don't necessarily get to the state or county level in general. From the compliance perspective, it's very rare. There might be scenarios where you might have taxation at the county level, city level, but it's very rare from the ERP perspective. So those are going to be key distinctions. And that's why the HCM system is extremely, extremely different. Now, if you are going to shove your HCM processes inside your ERP, good luck with that. You are overstretching the core capabilities of ERP. They are not necessarily designed for that. Or if you are going to keep your ERP processes inside your HCM, that is never fun either. So depending upon what you need, if you are really small, you don't have as many employees, then probably you don't require full-blown HCM software. But let's say if you are going to have 500,000 employees, that's when you are going to need a full-blown HCM software. But make sure you are creating a real boundary between your HCM and ERP, because the design is very different. The processes are very different. They are meant to be different. Now, some more points, I guess, overall from the briefing perspective, and Dave, Sasa, I'll open up for the briefing if you guys have any sort of observations or questions. So here, number one, from the SAP SuccessFactors perspective, this is the enterprise grade platform. For the most part, the companies that are going to be on S4, they can either choose S4, they can either choose SuccessFactors, but they don't have to choose. They can choose any other HCM software as well. And that's the flexibility that they get in choosing S4. But for the most part, obviously, SAP is going to say that, you know what, choose SuccessFactors because it's coming from me.
Well, there's to that point though, Sam. I mean, people need to be mindful. There's going to be another integration layer if they go outside of those bounds. So, not to say it's impossible, but just one more hurdle to navigate.
Exactly. And SAP is going to say that, you know what, it's pre-integrated, but again, you need to vet with your process flows as well as data flows, whether those pre-existing integrations, whether they are going to work or not. But yeah, great point. I mean, integration is definitely a factor. But from the integration perspective, Dave, one thing that you need to keep in mind that for the most part, the majority of the industries, the HCM processes, they are not as busy, I would say, from the integration perspective. They are not as involved. They are not as embedded. For example, I'll give you a comparison. Okay. So let's say if you're looking at the comparison of POS or e-commerce, even POS integration is very light even today. Okay. E-commerce may be slightly busier, but HR processes, they can be very disconnected. And that's why you can have a completely siloed HR software, and the only thing you need to transfer is the GL entries, which is very easy integration. Whether it is integrated or you are doing manually, it's probably gonna be okay. But in certain industries, okay, where learning or the certification or the person is going to be a factor in scheduling, then it becomes really tricky. And that's why you will see some systems, for example, let's say if you go for ERP systems such as your Unit 4, you go for ERP systems, and I'm calling Workday an ERP system, Dave, because they are an ERP system.
It's a good thing this is recorded.
we can replay this, okay? But Workday, okay, is an ERP system for the service-centric industries. And service-centric industries are very, very, very different the way they operate. So Workday is going to have all of those layers for the service-centric industries. They are going to be fairly comparable with your, Financial Force. They are probably going to be comparable with your Unit 4, Oracle to some extent, because they are playing in that space as well. So for the most part, when you look at the service-centric spaces, the HCM processes are very different in general. With that, the HCM workflows are going to be embedded as part of your scheduling. And that's when your HCM integration becomes very tricky as well, because for companies such as your manufacturing, distribution, retail, product-centric companies, for those, you don't necessarily require embedded HCM workflows, because for the most part, the planning is happening at the group level. You don't need to identify the individual resource or the skill set. But there is a caveat, okay? If you go to automotive, where the skill set or the certification, medical device, okay? If you go there, then the skill set certification becomes tricky. So sometimes they require that integration as well. And that's why ERP systems, HCM systems, they look all over the place, because each industry is going to be different. Their requirements are going to be very different as well. Yeah, so those are some layers overall from the integration perspective. I'll keep moving unless you have any other comment, Dave.
Now, I was just curious, what you mentioned kind of as we kick this off, and I don't recall just because it's not my direct space, but what was an HCM platform that was on-prem? Was there a precursor to this, or was it an Oracle product?
So IBM was very strong in the recruitment space, HCM space, and I don't remember the name of their product. I'm skipping it. Telio, which is the Oracle product, they were very, very, very strong. I don't know whether you have. I mean, if you look at the traditional recruiting workflow, when you used to apply for a job, you never want to apply for a job in your life. That's how bad they were, right? And the interfaces were coming from those portals.
Interesting.
Yeah. So Oracle right now, even today, they still use TALEO is the name of the product, Taleo. But there was another product that was really big in that category. So even PeopleSoft, I mean, they have a lot of on-prem installations even as of today.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. So there were a lot of them. In fact, I mean, HCM software, if you look at, they were very small footprint. I mean, they were not as big as your ERP software. So you could technically
Yeah.
have HCM software on-prem running on a system. They weren't as big.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's keep moving here. So here they are talking about the overall positioning, right, for the success factors. So this is number one. I have already touched on the enterprise grade HCM platform. Then the processes that you are going to see in this is going to be your recruiting, benefits management, as well as compensation planning. Those are 3 or 4 different pillars that you are going to see a lot. And then, as I mentioned before, that they were really the acquired product they acquired in 2012. From the competition perspective, I guess ERP systems, the ones that are going to have the HCM best of breed product. Okay, we are not looking at just the ERP that are going to have the HCM module. So here you are looking at Oracle HCM, which is competitor for your SAP SuccessFactors. In4, WFM competes in the manufacturing industrial centric spaces, and I'll touch on the differences of the white collar workers and the blue collar workers. These two are completely different industries. The kind of compliance processes that they are going to have, the kind of union processes that they're going to have is very different. And that's the another layer of compliance that you need to pay attention to. One I mentioned related to federal versus state versus your county. That is number one. Number two is going to be white collar or blue collar. So In4WFM is going to be slightly more in the industrial spaces. They are going to have the benefit, the compliance workflows. It's very different. Processes are very different. So In4WFM is positioned in those industrial spaces. The integration with ERP in the industrial spaces is going to be very different as well, just because they are going to be scheduling at the category level as opposed to doing it more as the PSA process, which is going to be your professional services automation, which you are going to see with your Workday or Oracle. Cornerstone, UKG, ADP, they are major player in the HCM space. They are not going to have as suite-centric offering. They are, for the most part, best of breed in their offering in the HCM space. But obviously, Oracle Infor, they are going to have the other offerings as well as part of their suite. Main competitor, if you look at, probably it is Workday and Oracle HCM, as I already pointed out. But the main competition is going to be really Workday. Now, collaborators overall from the product perspective, the Qualtrics is very embedded, and that was another acquired company that SAP acquired. They were more into those survey-centric capabilities. So this is more of the customer experience workflows, but also employee experience workflows that they are trying to embed with your core operational workflows. That's where your Qualtrics is going to be handy. So you are going to see the layers of that as well. And then obviously SAP Analytics Cloud is included with most of the workflows, SAP SuccessFactors included. OpenText is a very interesting category. And Dave, I don't know, Shasta, if you guys are familiar with OpenText, they are more of the document management platform, but the enterprise grade, some ERP systems are going to have their own document management layer. But if you're looking for the enterprise content management workflows, that's where OpenText is handy. So even for the HR documentation, compliance documentation with SuccessFactors, it is probably going to reside inside your OpenText, which is not owned by SAP, just to be clear. SAP BTP is the technology, and as for I have already mentioned that it is going to be part of the suite. Overall, from the industry perspective, ONG, energy, insurance, healthcare, manufacturing, retail, these are some of the industries where you are going to see them. But again, there is a clear divide in terms of the industries where this is going to be a fit, and where they are going to require a lot of add-ons for those compliance processes where they might not be as great fit. I'm good here. Unless you guys have any other comment, I'm actually going to move to the next one. So here, this is coming from their press releases, I guess. So some of the comments. So here they are saying SAP SuccessFactors HCM is a suite of cloud-based HCM software. So they are defining themselves as cloud-based, and they started as cloud-based. So obviously, this is going to be cloud native. So even inside your SAP installations, you are going to see cases where they might be on ECC, but they might be using SuccessFactors, which is going to be cloud native. So that's always possible. But this is definitely cloud native overall from the technology footprint perspective. That supports core HR, payroll, talent management, HR analytics, workforce planning, employee experience management. All of that could be equally deep in general. It was launched in 2001, so that is very similar to your Salesforce, I guess. Salesforce started in 1999. NetSuite started in 1998. So these are some of the years where all of these cloud native offerings started, and that's when your SuccessFactors started. They were more of the enterprise players, just like Workday, but Workday by that time, I think it was too big. And that's why SAP ended up acquiring SAP SuccessFactors. And part of the SAP family since 2012, it has what, 267 million users? Dave, can you believe this? In more than 200 countries. So the majority of the installations that SAP is going to have for SuccessFactors, they are going to be very enterprise grade. That's the kind of footprint that we are talking about. Now, the comparison with SAP HR. SAP HR was the name for the ECC footprint. In those days, they used to call it SAP HR, so which is just a module inside your ECC. There might be some companies that might still have that, believe it or not. Okay, so they are that functionality is going to be tightly embedded as part of the module inside your ECC, but that's where your architectural differences are going to be, and that's why companies, if they are migrating from your ECC to S4, they need to keep these things in mind, how the architecture is going to change. So it requires far deeper expertise overall from the data perspective, process redesign perspective, and how the architecture is going to look in the new world.
Hey Sam, how are these solutions, maybe not specific to SuccessFactors, maybe just more of a general question, but how are these typically licensed in this space? With that number of users, they have to be counting team members, employees, something, right? That's what I'm guessing. So I'm thinking it can't possibly be by the seat, but maybe it is.
Seat is going to have the roles as well, right? So they might have different categories of seats, and they are going to have different price tag with each of those.
Got it.
Yeah, for the most part. But I mean, it is definitely named user. Yeah. So here, comprehensive support for HCM, SAP HR has evolved into SAP SuccessFactors HCM. I don't know whether it is evolved as of today or not, but they are getting there, I would say. Employee experience management, core HR, and payroll. So these are some of the pillars. So employee experience management, you are going to find employee surveys, feedback analysis. Again, none of them are necessarily your ERP processes. These are very core operational workflows from the HR perspective. You can never do these things inside ERP. Don't try to do that, okay? It's going to be a nightmare. Employee surveys, feedback analysis, guided action, core HR, and payroll. This is where I guess some of the ERP systems may have these processes inside ERP. So that's going to be your HRIS system, payroll software. Again, that's probably going to be separate. Okay, self-service HR a little bit in some ERP systems, but it's rare. These guys are calling time and attendance, but SAP has another product called SAP Concur, and that is the core best of breed time and expense product. For the most part, the companies that are going to use SuccessFactors, they are most likely going to use Concur as well, just for the time and expense process, because that gets very deep as well. That is going to overlap with a lot of other processes. So here, the time and attendance, this is going to be more from the HR perspective, in the performance tracking, etc. But this is not necessarily as useful from the financial or production time and attendance perspective. So these are different perspectives of time and attendance as well. So here we are talking about the HCM processes. Dave, you have a comment, question?
No, I was just going to add to that, time and attendance can get really complex really quickly. We saw that a lot in the acquisition cycle. Because everybody has a different set of rules, and so that could be one challenge to navigate, especially when you're looking at a solution like this. Understanding, again, going back to what are our processes today, what do they need to be in the future, and is this a tool to help us execute those, or do we need to make some changes?
Yeah, could not agree more. And that's where I guess you are a big proponent of, process is always first, and that's how the mindset needs to be. That okay, first figure out how the processes are going to be. If you are acquiring, then you need to draw out your processes, okay, how your new core is going to look and how your data sets are going to be, and finally figuring out, okay, who is going to do what. So systems are just your resources. How you are going to utilize them is up to you. So unless you have any other follow-up, Dave, I'll keep moving. No? Okay, perfect. So as part of talent management, and that's a very unique category, it does not really have any sort of overlap with ERP. If ERP systems are trying to do this, it's a terrible idea. Recruiting, don't do that inside ERP. Crazy idea. Okay. Onboarding, learning, performance management, compensation. Again, compensation, maybe you can probably do that. don't do that. Don't do that.
Sam, do you see this as like a real, poor choice of words, but is this really an LMS in some sense for this piece of it, or is that still yet another piece of the puzzle? Learning management system, for anybody not familiar with that acronym, but is this another situation where we say one thing, it kind of touches on that, really not quite what we use this for?
Yeah, so LMS has a lot of layers as well, to be completely honest, okay? And the best of breed LMS that you are familiar with, they do only certain activities. They don't do everything, okay? So they are going to be good at content management, content compliance, content distribution. But then you are sort of creating a data silo when you are using a best of breed LMS system. So now when you are going to be at this level, and for the most part, the companies that are using SuccessFactors, they are probably going to be enterprise grade. Okay, so yes, these solutions are going to include LMS, but are you going to like it is a question. Okay,
Yeah.
if you keep everything within this, then you are going to get everything integrated, meaning your LMS processes are going to be intertwined with your performance. Okay, LMS processes are also going to be intertwined with your compensation, depending upon whether you have a feedback loop of that or not. I mean, creative HR guys, they like to have as much data as possible. So they would love to have that integration, but that integration also makes it very difficult to use a system, and that's why some people don't like it. So yes, you are going to have LMS, but companies might use best of breed LMS, and then they have to figure out, okay, how do they integrate LMS with this? Yeah, but great point. So the HR analytics piece, that gets very, very, very deep as well. So here we are talking about people analytics. If you go to FP&A category, they are going to have all of those different categories. They are going to include the HR workforce planning as well. But here, the only thing that you are doing is your HR centric analytics. The scenario modeling that you are going to do is you are doing forecasting only from the compensation perspective. For the most part, the enterprises that are going to have such needs, they would like to combine the finance data, the workforce data, and when they combine all of those, that's where they are going to get the real planning data that you are probably going to be needing for your financial planning. And that's why solutions such as your Workday are really powerful for people-centric industries. And the reason why they are powerful is because, number one, they have your HCM. Number two, they have the full-blown FP&A category. They have a little bit of procurement. They are going to have a little bit of finance as well. So if your core processes are really in that HCM category and you're lighter from the finance perspective, lighter from the procurement perspective, Workday could be a great option, because you are going to get the combined planning data that you are going to get only probably with your Workday, maybe with your Unit 4, with your Oracle. They might be able to do that with SAP as well. But this particular portion, the analytics piece that they are mentioning, this is only HR related data. When you want the combined data, then you are looking at something like SAP IBP, which is going to combine all of those data sets, and they are going to provide the end-to-end insight that you are looking for, from the enterprise perspective. If you guys don't have any other comments, I'll keep moving. So I think we have already touched on this particular point, but localization is very important as well. And here, localization is not the financial localization, I guess. This is going to be more of the language localization that is going to be equally critical as well, because you are dealing with employees in many different countries. But from payroll perspective, you are going to require that localization as well, because the taxes are very, very, very different.
I think that last bullet really highlights it, Sam. 160 plus customers have 100,000 plus end users. I mean, that if that doesn't tell you where the solution sits, I mean, that is wild. Those are big businesses.
Exactly. And those are the kind of businesses they are going to need these capabilities.
Yeah.
And honestly speaking, Dave, I mean, professional services businesses are a big consumer of this, to be completely honest. Like the consulting firms, they need this, because wherever you are going to have white collar workers, you are going to have a lot of HR problems. And for that, you need something like Workday or SuccessFactors. Some more comments here. So now when you sort of peel the layers, that's where you're going to find these solutions embedded. So for example, here you are reading SAP Employee Engagement Bundle by Qualtrics. So that's where your Qualtrics is sort of embedded. Qualtrics is providing some capabilities, SuccessFactors is providing some capabilities, and this is all SAP's work. Before SAP's acquisition, SuccessFactors did not have this embeddedness in these solutions. So now obviously SuccessFactors can do a lot more. SAP Employee Lifecycle by Qualtrics, that's a big one in general. SAP Candidate Experience by Qualtrics, and again, this is going to be rich people's problem, I guess. So this is definitely for very large companies, not for smaller companies. SAP Employee Technology Experience by Qualtrics as well. So this is very, very similar capability. Okay, so some more layer here, and this is going to be SuccessFactors Work Zone. And there are many different pillars. It's the same that we were reviewing before, but some more details on the Work Zone pillar. So here they are saying entry point to everything they need for work, applications, processes, and more. You are going to probably find this verbiage in a lot of different solutions, but for the most part here, you are looking at many different interfaces, many different devices, and sometimes that omni-channel experience. And again, this omni-channel experience that I'm referring to is not necessarily from the commerce perspective. This omni-channel experience is going to be from the employee experience perspective, because they are going to be using many different mobile devices. They are going to be on road, salespeople, and if you are going to ask them to enter their time or apply for any sort of benefits, it's very, very, very frustrating experience for them. So that's why they want a lot more devices, and ERPs as of today, I mean, they will not be able to support those many devices. There are some systems that can support, but for the most part, unless that is cloud native, it's very hard for those ERP systems to support this kind of experience. And that's another boundary that you have between your HCM and ERP systems. Then you have the personalized experiences. And this is going to be, again, the personalized experience is going to be more from the employee perspective. So let's say if you want to send any sort of recommendation or tailored career path, those are very, 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 very different processes. So that's where you're going to have tons and tons of business rules that you need to configure depending upon how many different departments you have, how many different employee journeys you have, and how they are satisfying that. If you have any sort of compliance workflows there, you need to satisfy those as well. So again, very different processes. Some more details here on the employee experience management. So here we are looking at engagement surveys or build your own with our simple survey builder. And Dave, once we review all of these different solutions, then we will know what other solutions have, and that's where we are going to be comparing these capabilities with the other solutions. Most of the time, other solutions are going to claim that they all have this, but they are going to be very lean in their capabilities. So here we are talking about engagement surveys or build your own with your own survey builder. So think of this as more of either MailChimp or HubSpot that is sort of intertwined with your employee workflows. That's how powerful this is, okay, from the employee survey perspective. So you can do the whole workflow automation piece. And this is where ServiceNow is doing a lot of business as well, because they are really into that HCM category, because from their perspective, they can do these things. They can do forms, they can do surveys. They are sort of agnostic across the board. So they do similar work as your SAP SuccessFactors. But this is a very similar functionality that is enabled through your Qualtrics. The difference between Qualtrics and ServiceNow is going to be, with ServiceNow, you can enable slightly more customized workflows. With Qualtrics, they are going to be slightly more prescriptive. They are not going to be as prescriptive as what you are going to find with an HCM application. These are still forms, but it's not going to be as fluid as your ServiceNow, which is more of the technical platform that can cover a lot of grounds. Okay, if you guys don't have any other comments, I'll keep moving. Okay, so deliver AI-driven action plans automatically to help managers know where to step in and how to close. And this is, again, the whole management leadership piece where they are getting a lot of insights in terms of the action plan if there is going to be any performance issues. And this is where your compliance is going to be handy as well, because when you are going to be big, then compliance issues, especially when you look at sensitive topics such as your termination, then you need to have full documentation of whatever happened there. It's very, very, very difficult. What else do we have here? I think I'm good there. SAP Employee Lifecycle by Qualtrics. So here we have some comments. Use automated surveys to optimize onboarding and offboarding experience with insights. for new hires and departing employees. So both experiences are going to be equally important. Again, these processes you are only going to find in the HCM system. You are not even going to find them inside your payroll system. So HCM as a category. Set up your experience dashboard quickly. Again, these dashboards are going to be very different from your ERP dashboard. So again, very different processes. Combine onboarding and exit feedback. Very, very, very different process. Again, that is more of the core HR operational process, and that does not necessarily test the financials, and that's why it is not part of the ERP systems. I don't have anything else here. Sentiment across different stages of your candidate experience. This is very, very, very interesting. And again, once you become really big, then you need to gather a lot of insights. So obviously they can do a lot here, and especially if you're going to be very people-driven organization, that's where you need a lot of data in terms of what is happening with your organization. If you guys have any comments, I can take those, or I can move to the next one, I guess. I don't have any other comments that I want to touch on here. Okay, so this is the HR and payroll management solutions. Here they are talking about quickly update their information and complete HR tasks. And this is going to be that employee self-service component. A lot of ERP systems are going to claim that they probably have that. But again, this is a very different process in general, the way it works. It is going to require a lot of different business rules that you need to configure. So again, configuring that is a very involved process in general. Organizational structures, total workforce with an interactive org chart that reflects the tool structure of your organization. So the HR organization is going to be very different from your financial or operational organization. So this is where I guess the whole org chart, the titles, etc., the HR titles are carried, and that has to be inside your HCM, software. Absence management, again, absence management, you don't want to keep that inside your ERP. ERP, for the most part, the responsibility is going to be more from the scheduling perspective. If an employee is absent, more from the production scheduling perspective, then you might keep that inside your ERP. But this is the overarching absence from the organization perspective, how your comp is going to be computed. That is going to be this absence management. Your performance management is not kept inside your ERP. So this is the overarching picture of your employees. Benefits, again, benefits get very busy as well, depending upon how your benefits are computed. For the most part, ERP is not the right place for that. SAP SuccessFactors time tracking. This time tracking is very different from your Concur or any other time tracking that you are going to get inside your ERP. So here they are talking about improve employee time and attendance processes with auto approvals, alerts, and embedded reporting. Again, very different perspective, and I don't know how many companies will use this, to be completely honest, and I don't know how many different groups will use this. So this is very interesting overall from the architecture and process design perspective. Dave, I don't know whether whenever you didn't have any sort of HCM software in your organizations, right?
Yeah, nothing formalized. Everything was really kind of siloed and offline.
Yeah. So this is going to be, again, more from the performance perspective, I would say. This time and attendance cannot be replacement for what you are going to get as part of your Concur. And I don't know how companies use it, to be completely honest. But I mean, again, this is a very interesting time tracking. Flexible time recording, give employees the option to record time. So in our case, I mean, we have seen some scenarios where they do. And one thing that we have not touched so far, Dave, is that the whole badging process when you are going to enter into the facility. Okay, so you are going to have a terminal where you are going to swipe your badge. Okay, where does that live? Is it going to be as part of your HR system, or is it going to be as part of your ERP system? So that process, that hardware has to be augmented with your HCM system, because again, that is your overarching attendant who is getting into your facility versus whether they are going to be involved with your production process or not. So that's where the key distinction is.
Yeah. The other layer to keep in mind with that, Sam, is, it could be very easy for people to get confused that this is recording time against, let's say, a work order, or in the professional services world, billable hours, or something to that effect. This is capture outside of those.
Yeah, and great point. And we have seen companies getting super confused with this. To be completely honest, some people are smart. They really like to keep these two things separate. But there are companies where they are literally monitoring washroom time. It's that bad. And then they need to account for that. That is being accounted as part of your job costing. Who's going to pay for washroom time? Come on, guys. Simplify your processes.
Yeah. Well, it's back to the standard cost accounting conversation. And, so capturing both data points in terms of payroll or compensated hours versus, earned hours is meaningful. But again, to your point, it's, you have to understand where all of these things live and then how they integrate with each other. Back to the point about, building access. And, I've even seen campus situations where you've got multiple facilities on one larger campus.
Yeah.
And, the inability to control and or track movement between facilities.
Yeah, could not agree more. And I guess, that's where your compensation design is going to be. The more you can keep your compensation siloed from your HR processes, meaning billing and payroll, keep them separate if possible. In our experience, I think that's what makes your system design easier as well. If you mix both of them, then you are going to have a lot of trouble. Okay, so I'll keep moving here. Excuse me. Collective agreements are going to be very big in some of the union-centric industries, and union is one topic that we have not touched so far. The union-centric industries, for the most part, the comment that I had mentioned related to your white collar, blue collar. In the blue collar industries, you are going to have a lot more union-centric processes, and they are going to have their own compliance reporting processes that you need to comply with. Otherwise, they generally result into severe financial penalties, and sometimes that could be even worse, disruptions, and Dave knows that. So you don't want to mess with them. So obviously that's a big process in general, and that's why sometimes we see that ERP systems are going to combine, some of the HR processes as well, if their processes are going to be intertwined with these HR HCM collective agreements processes. But if they are separate, then your life is going to be much easier. I don't have anything else that I want to hit on this one. I'll keep moving. Okay, so we have 10 more minutes right now. So this is all talent management. Again, some of the systems, and I don't know, Dave, whether you know the ATS systems. That is going to be your and ATS. I don't remember what it stands for. That is going to be, I think, applicant tracking.
Oh, tracking system. Yeah.
I guess that's ATS, right?
Yeah.
So ATS is a new category, I guess. So there are going to be best of breed ATS systems as well. So this whole process, the whole talent management process would probably reside inside that, because the whole recruiting workflow could be very busy and complex as well. So that's where all of these systems are going to have all of these workflows integrated. So you simply need to manage one system. Otherwise, it becomes very difficult. Okay, how do you correlate your employees from your recruiting system, HRIS system, to your benefit system, to your finally ERP system? So you could have challenges there. So that's where if you have everything as part of one system, your life is going to be much easier. But then implementation becomes difficult as well, because you need to correlate all of these data sets during your implementation. I don't have any other comments on this one. I'll keep moving. Dave, you have a comment?
No, the only thing I was going to add to that, Sam, it'd be interesting to see, especially in these larger solutions geared towards enterprise, specific to the ATS. I've been hearing a lot of people talking about AI generated and powered interviewing processes. So it'll be interesting to see how that ultimately makes its way into the enterprise realm, because you think about that was really, ATS I look at as, V1, right? Generative one. And so it'll be interesting to see how that may ultimately come to be a part of a solution like this. As technology continues to advance.
Yeah, so recruiting is probably one of the most underappreciated, function inside any company, to be completely honest. Okay, it's meant to be labor of love, just like retail. Okay, it's a lot of labor. So you are definitely going to see a lot more AI in general in that workflow, because these guys are working hard and they are not appreciated as much. They are not compensated. It's not like sales function where they are making a lot of money, I guess. If they are working hard, these guys, don't make as much. Yeah. So that's why you are going to see a lot more AI now. If you are looking at talent-centric industries, is AI going to replace the real personal connection? No. Okay? When you are looking at something like executive recruiting, it's almost like a sales process. It's a relationship building if you need to attract talent, right? Commoditized recruiting, there's a possibility. For the most part, screening, etc., generating summaries, narratives, etc., that's what is going to be automated in my mind.
Yeah. Yeah. Couldn't agree more. I think that's why I said, to me, the thought process behind the ATS, I see that as kind of, version one, where as that shifts in terms of some high level, um, check the box, if you will, for talent management and recruiting.
Yeah, could not agree more. So this is coming from one of their case studies, I guess. So here we have develop and retain top talent to support the company's growth strategy. So that was the benefit of our employees, the ease and convenience of self-services, increase the efficiency, transparency, and visibility of HR and finance activity, improve data quality. Now, Pentos AG is the company that has used this one. And one of the things that you are going to notice in this one is that they have utilized this with SAP S/4HANA suite. So that's where the marriage is. So here they are saying they were long-term SAP client with many years of experience using SAP business applications. Here, why they have chosen this is because integration of SAP SuccessFactors with SAP S/4HANA Cloud with SAP Business Technology Platform, and that is going to provide you that integration, from the technology perspective. In their mind, the value-driven results is automated HR and finance workflows, integrated core HR with payroll and finance. So it seems like they are using payroll from SAP, which is interesting if they are using that, because not all companies generally use that. Sometimes they are going to have dedicated payroll providers, that they use. Sometimes they might use this one as well. Empowered managers with visibility of profitability. Again, sales pitch, I guess. Managers to set and track performance goals, which are used to calculate compensation. Again, that's a big piece for a company of this size. So here, some more comments on this particular case study. They are saying they looked at it to replace disparate processes with a single platform to cover the entire employee life cycle. So obviously in the HR workflow itself, you are probably going to use 50 different tools. So when you have to consolidate all of that, when you are looking at single system of record, again, this is not ERP. This is only from the HR ACM perspective. You are trying to consolidate all of those technologies from the HR ACM workflow perspective. We wanted to introduce employee self-services and aimed to make HR more transparent for managers. Again, very core operational workflow. All employees in 8 countries use the SAP SuccessFactors solutions to manage everything from their personal information to performance objectives to annual leaves. Again, here we are talking about 8 countries. Okay, for the most part, if you are going to go for the smaller ACM systems, they are probably going to be present in few countries. Then you are probably going to end up with 8 different systems, 8 different data silos. So that's the real value of something like SuccessFactors.
Hey, Sam, we got a great question from Anders that I think is great timing here for this specific slide.
Yeah, so I guess we'll probably, I don't think we can cover any more. So we'll cover this comment and then I'll take some comments from you guys in terms of what has been your observations.
Yeah.
So here Anders is saying employee self-service portals. Can you speak to the complexities of setting these up for multi-jurisdictional situations? What are the safeguards against a Canadian accidentally using the South Korea setup for an international company onboarding? For the most part, Anders, when they say self-service here, they really mean it. Meaning it is self-service, meaning your employees are entering this information as opposed to HR people. So they are going to be entering their own personal information. And that's where the whole confidentiality issue is going to be handy as well, that you don't want to reveal this information to anybody else. There are going to be sensitive confidential information, and there are compliance issues related to that, HR laws. If you violate that, then you are going to get severe financial penalties. So here, is this situation likely? Not too sure about that, to be completely honest, unless you are going to be paying them differently, meaning you are in real trouble if you do that, because those counties are going to come after you if you are going to be, because they have several different data sources that they can gather and they can find out when you have not paid them properly. I mean, we have received, we are a very small company. we have received fines of $25,000, $50,000 from these county cities, etc. So it's that bad. So I don't know how anybody could set up these things wrong. If you set up, then you will know. Dave, what has been your experience?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say the same thing, right? Like from a system setup perspective, you're going to have it's kind of like, who has access to what modules, to what branches, it's going to be the same type of thought process in terms of, from a straightforward infrastructure standpoint. But yeah, to your point, like it gets really dicey really quick in terms of the compliance aspect of it. And, in my experience, most of those are just mistakes. They're the compliance side is not well understood.
Yeah.
It's not malicious, is my point. It's not somebody or a company or what have you
Yeah.
maliciously trying to skirt the system. It's literally a mistake of understanding from that compliance perspective. And you think about SMB compared to enterprise, right? And it's multiplied 10x 100x. So that's the complexity. I would say. So yeah.
Yeah, and just to add to that comment, I guess, and Anders on this comment as well, to be completely honest, most of these smaller companies, they are going to use something like PEO, and I don't remember what that acronym stands for. I guess PEO is what, professional employee organization, or what is that? PEO is the organization that is going to outsource all of your HR compliance processes, I guess. So smaller companies, they work with them. For the most part, it's going to be very similar arrangement as your sales taxes with your Avalara. This is also similar but more complex. HR laws are far more complex. So even the bigger companies, they are going to hire the HR specialized consulting firms, and they are going to take care of these issues for the most part. They'll let you know if there are going to be any loopholes in your setup, I guess.
Yeah, PEO, Professional Employer Organization.
Oh, yeah,
that was a new one for me a while ago.
Too many acronyms. I mean, sometimes you can't even remember how many you use on a daily basis.
Yeah. For me, Sam, I mean, I think like that was a great segue only from the standpoint of solution like this. I think, I say this often, right? But it's the terminology we use across these types of solutions and getting back to understanding what are we really trying to do here? Where do we need these processes and data sets to live? How do we need them to communicate across the organization so ultimately the people have the access to the tools and the process flows to make their lives, easier? And I think that just continues to get more and more complex. Obviously, the larger the organization, the more complex. But, even just as we're wrapping up, right, all of the different acronyms, all of what some solution provider may put into a particular solution set compared to, best of breed, compared to it gets really complex. This stuff is not easy. That's why you should not be doing your own implementations.
It's never easy. It's never easy. And yes, you should be doing a lot of thinking. Otherwise, that's why most of the organizations, they get into trouble. Okay. Any other comments, guys, before we close? No? All right. So that's a wrap. If you joined for the first time, this was part of our industry series for which we meet every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern. So make sure you guys are going to be here next week. We are going to come back with another vendor or the solution. On that note, thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in this afternoon.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the WBS podcast. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform so you never miss an episode. For more information on growth strategies for SMBs using ERP and digital transformation, check out our community at WBS.rocks. We'll see you next time.